We are back with another live episode of Bully Ball on the Gold Standard Podcast Network. I'm Jason Aponte, joined as always by Steph Sanchez. Steph, Happy New Year. And
Happy
the
New
49ers
Year.
are the number one seed. How are you?
I am sensational. Wasn't Sunday just like the best freaking day like we've had in a really long time? It certainly felt like that. And then Monday, the first day of the year is a victory Monday. How about that?
So good. And especially the way it happened, too. It's like right after the 49ers won, we got to sit and laugh at the Eagles again. It's just a perfect way to end the season. But before we get into the 49ers, the Washington game, the number one seed, what they're going to do, I have to tell you about our partner, Community Tree Service. We're very excited to announce that our new YouTube partners and friends of the show, Community Tree Service, tree trimming, land clearing, hazard tree removal, fire hardening, and debris removal from the Central Coast up to the Bay Area. Estimates are free. Call 831-763-2391. Email estimating at cts831.com or visit their website at communitytree.com to schedule an appointment. Mention that you're a 49er fan to receive a $200 discount on your quote. Mention that you're a Seahawks, Cowboys, or Eagles fan to receive a $200 increase to your quote. Make sure you check out Community Tree Service. I love that read. It's really funny, actually. Yeah, Steph. So New Year's Eve, before the ball drops, the Eagles drop the ball, and then the San Francisco
Yes.
49ers end up being the NFC leader. And I sent out a tweet sarcastically, but I think this is kind of true. I was like, I tagged the Arizona Cardinals, and I said, for once, can you please have a big win in your franchise's history? And they got it. So congrats to the Arizona Cardinals. Congrats to the San Francisco 49ers, more importantly. Steph, react.
Yeah, there was a couple times watching that score because I couldn't watch either game live, but I was following on Twitter and of course following what was going on between the Cardinals and the Eagles. And I know at one point we were feeling like it's probably not going to happen. The Eagles got up kind of early in that game. They had the pick six and everything. And so I think we were just ready to accept the fate at that point. But then the unexpected happened and it became a close game. And I mean, you saw the reactions of the players reacting to it. I thought that was a really cool moment. They're just like us for real. And that's pretty much like how we were all reacting to, the situation and the unlikeliness of it all. And, the football gods are fans of the 49ers, I guess.
Yeah, it just gives us another opportunity to laugh at Philadelphia, who are just in absolute shambles. I mean, they are just not a good team right now.
They're
They're just
unwell.
not.
They
They
wanted
are
to fire
not well.
Sirianni.
Right. I
I,
mean,
I
I
saw
think
those
he
tweets
should be.
already.
I mean, it starts with them. It starts with him. And I guess the football gods are not Rocky Balboa. But the the thing about this that's so important, right, is we actually have in this Washington game a Christian McCaffrey injury. We're obviously waiting for word on Eric Armstead. We've got Javon Hargrave nursing a hamstring. And now the San Francisco 49ers don't have to do anything this week. They can do whatever they want. It's their world, right? Like it's you can play the guys for a quarter, play them for a half, don't play them at all. But the 49ers won't be playing a meaningful game for another 2 weeks, and that'll be in the divisional game, which, by the way, anybody trying to look for tickets to that game, I hope you're taking out a second mortgage for your home because, my goodness gracious. I mean, I've been to an NFC championship game in which I've almost paid $1,000. But man, that is an absurd, hottest ticket in town. Let's just say that. Let's just say
Yeah.
that. But the 49ers are not leaving the West Coast again. They're not. And now the question becomes, what do they do in this regular season game now? We obviously know Christian McCaffrey is not going to play, but there has to be a little bit of a balance between rust and rest. And at what point do you say, "Hey, we need you to get some work in, keep yourself sharp, and then we can get you, into the bye week and everything as well too." Jair Brown's another guy who can use another week to get healthy for the playoffs as well too. But Steph, like that fine line between rust and rest, I don't envy being the decision makers because I think you put out a brilliant tweet in which you said, I'm not good with numbers, but not every single player can not play, right? And it's just like, yes, there's only so many football players that can play. And I don't think anybody's ever going to be happy with what Kyle Shanahan does in this game, right? Why is he in here? Well, why is he in here? Well, there's not enough football players There's not enough football players. I mean, if I had my way, right, Steph, bench everybody. And in fact, Kyle should get benched too. He shouldn't even coach either. Everybody needs another extra week, right, Steph?
Yeah, I mean, you know why I tweeted that, right? Because I'm just
Of
getting
course.
ahead of
Of
all
course.
the people, all the outrage that I'm going to see inevitably, next Sunday when everyone's like, why is he out there? One player, maybe slow to get up. He shouldn't be out there. All the outrage, right? I was just trying to get ready for it. And I said,
Yeah.
like, it's mathematically impossible to rest every starter. Like it is. You
Yep.
need 48 players to dress for game day. At least 22 players have to get snaps, few more if you add like special teams players and all that. So again, it's just mathematically impossible to rest everyone. The trenches, for example, where you have 5 guys on the line, you don't have 5 different healthy O linemen or 5 different reserve players on the roster that you can all swap them with. You just don't. So, and people bring up, well, can't you bring up guys from the practice squad? Well, yeah, but you can only bring up 2 guys a game from the practice squad. So you have to be selective and you have to think about, okay, what positions do I want? Because you only get 2. So yeah, I don't envy Kyle Shanahan at all with this decision. He definitely has to think about, okay, who needs this rest? Obviously, guys who are dealing with injury, Jair Brown, Ambry Thomas, Christian McCaffrey. Those are the obvious ones, right? But then you have other obvious ones that for the players that they are, you want to rest those guys. Trent Williams, perhaps that's definitely an option. And Kyle was asked about this yesterday when he spoke with the media, and he said, quote, not as many players as you would think, are going to be resting. It really is a hard thing to do, and it's not always the best thing to do too. So we're going to take everything into account. And he's right about that. Like, you're not just weighing the risk of injury, you're also weighing, okay, can we afford to rest this player for 2 weeks? Will it do more harm than good? Is it going to make them rusty in the divisional round game, right? That's something you don't want. Kyle also mentioned how it can change practice habits. Like, guys know they're not going to play. Okay, I'm not going to practice very hard. And then that could develop and trickle into the following week, right? Bad habits. And you know how much Kyle loves practice. So it isn't as easy as us head coaching from our couch want to make it seem, right? So that's why Kyle is going to talk to the coaches, players, think on it. It's a tough decision. So whatever he decides, I'm going to be like, okay, Kyle, like clearly you think that's right for the team, and we're just going to roll with it.
Yeah, and then you have to think about some of the guys that haven't been playing, right? Like Jawan Jennings is going to show up. You want him to ramp up a
Yeah.
little bit because he's
Yeah.
been missing on third down, it feels like. So you want to get him ramped up for this game as well, too. But you also want to get him ramped up with his quarterback, not the backup, right? Like you want to make sure that connection is still there as well, too. So it's a fine line to walk with this whole rest thing, right? Like it's not as easy as, well, just give them 2 weeks off and they'll be ready to roll. No, you cannot afford to slip up in the divisional game and have a quarter or 2 of rust, right? Like, it doesn't matter who the opponent is, because that's when you find yourself in a hairy situation. Now, if you're sharp and you're ready to go, I do believe in being hot. And this is what Fred Warner was talking about in that quote that was like floating around about the number 1 seed. He wasn't saying that he doesn't care about the number 1 seed. He was saying that you can have the number 1 seed and not be playing your best football and get bounced. And he wanted to play his best football, he was saying. And I think that is very valid as well, too. So there is a very fine line with this. I don't envy this position that Kyle Shanahan's in, but you have to trust in him to get it done. I mean, this is, again, they've ticked all the boxes for the regular season awards, whatever it is, goals, I should say, that they wanted. So this is another good thing, right? But it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, to see who plays. But yeah, I can't wait for Jawan Jennings to like limp off the field. Why is he playing? He has to play. There's not that many receivers. Like he has to play. So, just brace yourself for that. Just a little bit. This feels like there's gonna be no perfect way to handle this, and people are still gonna be upset one way or another. But let's talk about this Washington game. So I'll be honest, Steph, we didn't do a show before, but if we did and we were talking about this Washington game, I would have said Niners by 300. This is a team that is in shambles. I mean, they literally just gave up 27 points to Trevor Siemian and the New York Jets. They have no starting cornerbacks. I mean, Benjamin St-Juste is out. Our old buddy Tariq Castro Fields had to start, and he left in this game. And it's just like, man, the Commanders, they're in trouble, right? And Brissett's starting. No, wait, Brissett's not starting. Sam Howell's starting. Oh, yeah, Niners by a million. that this one was a little bit of a struggle. It wasn't always pretty the whole time, and a lot of people were a little bit nervous during this game for a little while.
And that's totally understandable. And again, me watching, like not watching the game live, but checking people's tweets and then watching the game over, later in the day, I was expecting like a terrible first half, which it wasn't even like a terrible first half from the 49ers,
Mm.
but obviously they left points up on the board. They let the Commanders score and the game was close going into the half. But you see what happened after halftime, and the 49ers really locked in and said, guys, let's go out and just win this game. And then,
Yeah.
they pretty much could just decide when they want to turn it on, right? And I kind of felt like going into the game, that's kind of how both teams felt. Like it felt like the Commanders expected to lose the game, and it felt like the 49ers expected to win the game, like no matter what happened, right? So I feel like it was light work for the 49ers, and they were just trying to, okay, let's get this monkey off our back the previous week, dust it off our shoulders a little bit, and let's just get out of here with the win and not any more injuries, right? So it just felt like a game where they, I don't want to say they didn't try too hard, but I think we know it could have been a little, like you said, it should have been Niners by a million, right? So I don't know. I think they were just trying to get out of there with a win. And I just will say about Brock Purdy, like it felt like he wasn't trying to do too much. He was just taking what the defense was giving him, but not in the like overly aggressive way. So I feel like we saw a slightly different Brock than maybe we saw the previous week. Clearly, like not talking about the interceptions, but just talking from the standpoint of his aggressiveness and pushing the ball downfield. Like I felt like he was a little more, I don't have to get the big play here. I could just, get this check down and just moving the ball that way and executing, because that's what he said he needed to work on after that. After all the picks in the Ravens game, it was just like, I kind of lost my way and I wasn't really executing. So it felt like this week he was just focused on simply executing.
Yeah, and the offense wasn't exactly, it wasn't that it was bad, it was just in the red zone they
Right.
were leaving the points up, right? And I
Yeah.
think there's that incompletion of Juice, which he falls down, but that ball was a dot. Like Purdy
Yeah.
put it right where it needed to be, man. It was so good. But I think the concerning part wasn't necessarily that they weren't moving the ball. It's just you got to finish down there. Right?
Mhm.
And that's just the bottom line. I mean, the 49ers have been very efficient in the red zone, but you can't do that in the playoffs, right? Again, so and then you're looking at the opponent and it makes people a little bit nervous. Like, okay, look, it's an inferior opponent and you're having trouble in the red zone. Is this going to be it's probably a one game off thing. Like it's not something that I would be necessarily concerned about. The way that I'm choosing to view it is, again, the 49ers haven't found ways to win games other than blowouts really at this point. And this one kind of felt muddy, right? Kind of felt a little bit weird. Things weren't exactly clicking the right way. And, that was kind of encouraging to see them be able to say, like you said, all right, let's stop this out and let's finish this now. Like, let's get it done. And, Mooney Ward gets an interception. Lenore gets an interception. Lenore almost had two, man. I was very
Mhm.
shocked that he didn't get that second
Yeah.
foot down, man. That was really impressive. But and then you think about Christian McCaffrey not being in this game for large stretches. I got to say, the biggest thing that I walked out away impressed with is Elijah Mitchell back.
He's all the way back, man. He's all the way back.
Wow. Hey, that was the best he's looked since his rookie year.
Mm. Yeah.
Seriously. That was the best he's looked since his rookie year. I mean, it's so nice to know that if he was pressed into duty and he's going to get his shot this week again to continue rolling, that maybe Christian McCaffrey doesn't have to be on the field all the time, or maybe Christian McCaffrey can be split out wide and you can have Elijah Mitchell. This can kind of really open things up a little bit more if you can start to rely on him. But it's really nice to see Elijah Mitchell get back in the mix because the injuries and even when he's been there, he's looked less than explosive. But that's the best he's looked since his rookie year. And I think when he scored the touchdown, which was his first since week 17 of last season or something like that, I believe.
Mhm.
George Kittle was pretty excited. So I think these guys remember, Elijah Mitchell was the rookie. He broke the rookie record for rushing. Like they pulled for this guy, right? Like so, I think it was pretty cool to see him get back in there. So I think that's impressive, and I think that was something that I walked away with.
Yeah, everyone, gets really frustrated about Elijah Mitchell and man, like he's always hurt. Why does he continue to get opportunities? Put Jordan Mason in there. But then you see Elijah Mitchell, when he's healthy and he gets his opportunity, he's a really good back. And that's the reason that he gets his opportunity among other things. But the fact that McCaffrey had to leave this game, the fact that it was Mitchell's first game back after, multi-week absence, and he was able to put up 80 yards and 4.7 yards per attempt is, that's impressive and is good to see, because they're going to need that next week. Hopefully they can use that in the playoffs as well. And guys like Elijah Mitchell, they pull for him. I'm happy for him. It seemed like the 49ers were maybe playing it safe and in keeping him out as much as he did and just trying to get him to 100%. Like, we don't need to rush you back. Let's get you to 100%. He looked like he was 100% on Sunday, and those are the results you get.
Yeah, that's a really good thing going into the playoffs. Just because we never know what's going to happen. I know obviously Christian McCaffrey's going to have 2 weeks off, but Elijah Mitchell being able to be a 1-2 punch and kind of give McCaffrey a lighter load, it would be huge. It really would. So that's something that was really encouraging coming out of this game. Something else that's very encouraging is that Brandon Aiyuk is fucking good at football, man. I just want to make sure that I say that out loud. Another 100-yard game. I think we talked about it, right? Like, Brandon Aiyuk, we knew was always open, but this thing has been unlocked with Brock Purdy. Like, it's just it's completely different. Like, their rapport is so different. And he talked about it. I love doing scramble drill. I love doing it with BA. That connection is so perfect right now, right? And that deep ball, man, what a dime, man. Right to Brandon Aiyuk. And I mean, obviously he had the long one in Tampa Bay, but you know, everybody talks about Brandon Aiyuk getting him paid. I think Brock Purdy's getting Brandon Aiyuk paid too because of the report that they had, right? Like, he's always been this open. He just didn't have somebody getting the ball to him, or putting him in a spot where he can make a play. Now he does. I think Brandon Aiyuk owes Brock Purdy a little bit of money. What do you think, Steph?
Yeah, I mean, and I think Brandon Aiyuk feels the same way, right? Because he got over 1,300 yards on the season, and he posted a picture to, I guess, like, celebrate, commemorate that with a picture of Brock Purdy, because Brock Purdy's number 13, and he added 2 zeros at the end. So to me, that was a little, symbolic, giving some props to his quarterback as well. And yeah, they have great connection, especially on those scramble drills, like you mentioned. And I think that's something that has always been there with these two this season. Like, watching the all 22 and watching, like, all those times that Purdy does escape the pocket, you see Aiyuk, like, move to where his quarterback is going to make sure that he's in good position. And that one touchdown that they had, Brock Purdy told him to move the other way. Okay, like, I appreciate you going that way, but go this way. And they got that touchdown, and it was really great to see. I really enjoyed watching that from the all 22 angle, because
Yeah.
you can see how quickly Brandon Aiyuk reacts to it. Like, a lot of people in the comments are like, he stopped on a dime. Yeah, he did, man. And that's just the type of receiver that he is, and the type of movement that he has, and why he's open as often as he is. And you mentioned another 100+ game for him. That's the 7th of the season. He tied Jerry Rice for third most such games in a season in franchise history. So BA is going to get a bag this season, and this offseason, he definitely deserves it.
Seeing a San Francisco 49ers quarterback point and have it be good.
Zoom in, Rob. Zoom in. Yeah, Rob an image.
It's just, what's so funny is that Jimmy's pointing and he literally just throws it out of bounds. Like, and it's just like, what were you pointing to and where are you trying to send somebody?
He's pointing so high. Like, where's this ball going? Like, dude looks like he's doing like a little disco move. Like,
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Jimmy's dancing. Jimmy's dancing out there. He's not like, don't get on him. Like, he's hearing Saturday Night Fever right there. Like, he's dancing. That's what Jimmy does, man. But yeah, a little bit traumatic, right? Like, I saw Brock point and I was like, uh-oh. And then I was like, hey, touchdown. I was like, so that's allowed? Sorry, I don't want to like crap on Jimmy Garoppolo. I just think that's funny, man. Was panicking at the disco. Thank you, Rory.
Nice. That's a good one.
Oh my goodness, man. So yeah, again, no real injuries out of this game. I did want to ask you this, actually. Aaron Banks was active but did not play. That kind of felt like more of an emergency move more than anything, I would say, right?
Yeah, I would imagine so. But at the same time, I think Aaron Banks or Burford, like, they're kind of maybe falling out of favor, for John Feliciano instead, because Feliciano has been solid when he's, been in there due to those guys' injuries. And so I don't know, maybe a less than 100% Aaron Banks wasn't exactly enticing to the 49ers to have out there. And John Feliciano, who's been solid, especially on that left side, they probably felt like that would be a better move in this game. It's going to be interesting how that goes, in the playoffs, because I think they've experimented enough with having Feliciano there. I think they like him. And so, do they make that decision to just continue to start him in the playoffs? I don't know, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, and the funny part is Washington's strength is interior with Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen, right? So it kind of was funny to see them go with it, and Feliciano has played well.
Yeah.
I think Burford's the one that's more in trouble. I would say, because it does seem like Aaron Banks played some special team snaps at least, but I think Burford's the one that's a little bit more in trouble just because he struggled mightily this season. And everybody looks at Colton McKivitz, but man, Burford's had his struggles as well too. And Feliciano, is a professional, right? And
Yeah.
he's played very well. There's been games where he's had clean sheets. There's games where he's given up pressures, but that's the nature of being an offensive lineman. You're never going to have a clean sheet for the rest of the season, right? So, yeah, I do think that it's probably Burford more than anything than with Banks. I just think maybe like the way that I'm viewing it is that they were looking at Aaron Banks saying, you're healthy enough to suit up, but we don't want to have you out there, for right now. We can get by, and they were able to do it. So, I mean, who's to argue with that? But we're gonna see. That's gonna be pretty interesting to see and going forward. And I think that's one underlying, like, I guess, topic going into the playoffs is the offensive line. Like, what is this
Yeah.
going to look like? Obviously, Brendel and Williams are going to be there. McKivitz seems to be in there, but the guard position is going to be really, really interesting to figure out, and I think that's going to be something to keep an eye on. I'm really interested to figure out. I think especially with the opponent, whoever it may be, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
do you feel comfortable with one guy over the other based on opponent? I think that's going to be pretty interesting to monitor. But yeah, I mean, I didn't really look too much into it. I just figured, hey, he's kind of an emergency guy this week, and he wasn't going to be ready. But I wanted to ask you about, is Mooney Ward an All Pro?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes. Yes.
uh,
Glad we could get
that's a
that
good
out of the
answer. Yeah, that's a good answer. That's a good
way.
answer.
I mean,
For some,
he had a great
yeah,
game, right? Like he allowed just 2 receptions. If I asked you, okay, like he allowed 2 catches, how many yards do you think he allowed? And if I told you 4, like you would not believe that, right? Like that's just a pretty low number. And he also had the interception. I mean, everyone talks about the interview he had on the Eric Armstead podcast. Like, man, he's called his number, he's called his game, and he's been getting those interceptions as of late. So yeah, I think that's pretty much solidified his All Pro this season. And I think a lot of us had seen it even before the interceptions started to fall, and he started to get those. But yeah, I mean, he's basically been a shutdown kind of guy for the 49ers this year, and that's been so valuable to this team. So valuable. Because you see a lot of people are talking about the defensive line and like how are they not getting the quarterback and all this stuff. And even so, even with that maybe not being to the level that it has been, the secondary has played really well. And a lot of the reason for that is because of what Mooney Ward has been doing this season. And so people panicking about the defense. They only gave up 10 points. Like, what are we doing
yeah,
here, man?
right.
So, but again, it goes back to Mooney Ward and what those guys are doing on the back end. And I think it'd be a completely different season, completely different year if those guys weren't holding it down like they are right now.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is I saw so much criticism of the defense. Oh, they're soft. They're getting
Yeah,
run all
right.
10 points. 10 points. 10 points.
That's what I'm
It was like
saying.
one drive that like the I was gonna say the bad word that the Commanders ran well, right? Like it just I think it was because you're like, oh, Sam Howell, and how are they gonna get this done? It's like, those guys get paid too, so give them credit, right? Like, but it's just funny to kind of watch as always, the emotions of like the game and just watch it through the timeline. It's just, oh my god, they're soft, they're getting run all over, and it's like, dude, they had like no yards in the second half. Like they weren't doing anything with the football. Like, let's settle in, let's calm down, right? Like let's settle down a little bit. But yeah,
And
this
and
game
was
was
and
uh,
Jay, what wasn't that like the part of the second half adjustments were because of what Mooney Ward suggested, right, to Steve Wilkes, some things to
Yep.
do.
Yeah. I
Val-
believe that's something that
Valuable,
he
he's
said.
doing.
And that's the thing again too about being on the field. It wasn't necessarily anything about energy, but you want to be able to like get those adjustments on the fly and listen to your guys, right? Especially when he's been playing as well as he has. Like, hey, coach, this is what I'm seeing. This is what I'm comfortable with.
Hmm.
Let's change this up here. You're able to get all that feedback immediately. There's only one phone up to the booth, so it's good to have that interaction face to face. And it's good to look at the iPad or whatever it is, a Surface tablet, with them and go through what they're seeing. So yeah, I mean, again, for everything that's happened this season, obviously the season's over. There's one more game left, but Steve Wilkes has done a really good job. And I think that that is something that we should acknowledge because so many people wanted to hand him his, walking papers, a long time ago. But after the bye week, he fixed it, and it wasn't necessarily all because of Chase Young. I think there was a lot of things schematically that he changed that were great, and one of them is allowing Mooney Ward to go ahead and travel with your favorite
Hmm.
receiver, and
Yeah.
and that helps out a lot. Bringing in Ambry Thomas to the outside, getting Lenore back inside. So I think again we got to give Steve Wilkes credit with the way that this defense has played as well too. So Steph, I don't know about this game. I think there's like nothing really else to discuss. 49ers just better. It was eventually going to wear them down. I do want to talk about something a little funny because it wouldn't be David, thank you, man. I want to talk about something a little funny because it wouldn't be 49ers land without something completely insane happening. Deebo Samuel and Cam Newton. We got to talk about it. We got to talk about it. We got to talk about it. So for the
Okay.
uninitiated, Cam Newton, after the Monday game against the Ravens, we didn't get to talk about it because we didn't do our show. Brock Purdy's throwing interceptions. He posts a monocle gif, almost belaboring the point that he made about game manager for Brock Purdy, right?
Hmm.
Um, Debo Samuel goes on Up and Adams show. Shout out to Kay Adams. Goes on Up and Adams show because he has a normal spot there, and he's talking about, hey, Cam Newton, stop talking about my quarterback and stop texting my phone. And then Cam Newton sitting in the airport. And if you watch Cam Newton's videos, and I love Cam, by the way, but I still think that I'm going to get this joke off. If you watch Cam Newton's videos on mute, it's like he's delivering a message to Gotham to show the Batman needs to reveal himself, or he will unleash a fury on Gotham that is not known, unknown, right? Like he looks like he's delivering like one of those messages like the Riddler would.
Well, you know what
Um,
it is, Jay. It's those damn
it's the
hats.
hat. It's the hat. Yeah, it's the hat. I mean, that huge feather. It's like you look like you're a Batman villain. Um, and he says, "Unless our dear Dark Knight stops me first," Rob says. Um, and then he says, "Stop the cap. I don't have your number." And then Debo goes into receipt mode and pulls up his text. Now the text, we all know how Cam Newton has put out Instagram posts, right?
Fonts.
Like that
Yeah,
that
it's weird
font's a
font.
little weird. Yeah.
Hmm.
So that one's in there. So that's kind of a telltale, like, hey, maybe that is Cam. Maybe, because Cam writes that way.
But it like switched
Long sto-
mid text.
it
Like,
did. It
yeah.
did. Long story short, a
Repo.
Snapchat screenshot comes out. Debo Samuel got catfished by people that had his number in South Carolina. Steph, I say this, and I mean this. We are not the content creators. The San Francisco 49ers are the content creators. We are two fishermen in a boat. The fish are flying in, and we're trying to whack as many with the oar as we can and keep them in. We can't even do it all because this team is insane. John Lynch likes to tweet in Nashville talking about leaving Jimmy Garoppolo. He's got to say something about, oh, I talked about it in church. No, you didn't. You definitely like that tweet. And it's just like this team, it just never stops, Steph. How do we cover this team and go through all the things that goes on with this team, man? Like, it's just hilarious to me.
I'm just appreciative because you don't even have to make things up. You don't even have
Nope.
to like bend the truth a little bit,
Nope.
find things where they aren't there.
Truth is stranger than
It's
fiction
there.
anyway. Truth
It
is
it
stranger than fiction anyway.
it
Look at
is
this. Like, you couldn't have made this up.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, the stories just sort of write themselves. So, and there's no wonder that, sometimes I'm like, man, do other fan bases have this many content creators, or is it just the 49ers? And I think it's just the 49ers because there's so much freaking content coming out of this team,
Right.
for the obvious reasons, them being a good team, but also just all the underlying stuff that we get,
Yeah.
with from the fan base, from the players, is great. It's nonstop. Who wouldn't love this?
Yeah. I mean, the Houston Texans don't have things like this going on with them, right? I doubt they have that many content creators, right? Like, there's nothing going on with the Indianapolis Colts in which like Michael Pittman is getting catfished, like, right? Like, it's just nonstop, man. And I'm just so appreciative that this team looks us out and wants to give us content nonstop as they have.
Appreciate you.
Steph, I think this is a good place to end this episode. Guys, thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure that you guys like this video, subscribe to the Gold Standard Podcast Network, wherever you get your audio podcast, the YouTube channel. Make sure that you guys visit goldstandardniners.com as well too. And Happy New Year, everybody. I just want to remind everybody, in the great words of Larry David, you cannot say Happy New Year after January 7th. Act accordingly. For Steph, for Jay, we're out of here.
Peace.